Honesty is the best policy, or so the saying goes. Most of us would agree with that, but there are times where honesty isn't as cut and dried as it seems. Sometimes people bend the truth for positive reasons, maybe to spare somebody's feelings from a harsh truth, or when we're planning a surprise. Most people like to think they're pretty honest. Nobody appreciates being called a liar even if they are one, but looking through autistic eyes, you might find your understanding of what is honesty and what is not is quite different to non-autistic standards. Today we'll be exploring: what is honesty? Do we sometimes tell lies without realising? And why is truth so important in autistic communication? Honesty seems on the surface to be a pretty straightforward concept. If you make a statement that is measurably true, then it is honest. If the statement is not measurably true, it's dishonest. It's a lie. Most people regard themselves as being pretty honest if they're not consciously telling a lie. The trouble is that there are endless grey areas when it comes to honesty, and most of them are concealed. There are layers upon layers of social convention, unspoken agreements, and intentions both good and bad. Honesty is not merely defined by what is true and what is not. It's a social contract. Let's start simple. The honest mistake. We often say things that aren't true without even realising. We make a statement or answer a question in the belief that what we're saying is fact, but we find out later that we were wrong. Even news outlets do this with alarming frequency. There is no intent to deceive anyone, but if someone believes us, then that's what we've done. The lie may be unconscious, but we have given inaccurate information which may have consequences we didn't expect. Then we have white lies. In this case, we know that what we say isn't the absolute truth, but we do so because we think that the unvarnished truth will be hurtful to the person concerned. We don't want to tell our friend that the new haircut they've just had makes them look ridiculous because it will hurt their feelings, so we tell them they look great. We also tell white lies in more critical situations. We reassure people that everything will be okay when we know it won't, to spare them the stress that knowing the truth would cause them. We know we're telling a lie, but it's excusable because the intent is honest and kind. There's another type of white lie though. The lies we tell to avoid getting into trouble or to gain advantage, but we don't think will hurt anyone. They may not be true, but we don't think they will do any real damage. Is this really in the same category? The other kind of white lie is told for other people's benefit, but this one is purely selfish. What if it does harm we didn't expect? Is it still as white a lie as we thought? How about opinion? An opinion is not a literal expression of the truth. It's filtered by personal bias, by feelings, and our available knowledge. Opinions can be flexible and altered by countless influences, but we often state them as if they were fact. Whilst there's a truth at the heart of every opinion, that it's an expression of how someone feels about a given subject, it's not always made clear that we're stating an opinion rather than a verifiable fact. We may deceive others into believing something that's actually the product of our bias and our emotions and missing essential information. It may be someone's opinion that their team is the best, or a particular type of person is inferior to another, but that doesn't make it a fact, even if it's stated with equal conviction. These are just the tip of the iceberg. But in all these instances, we'd feel quite put out if someone said we were being dishonest. However, if we were to take the definition of honesty at face value, we'd not exactly be living up to it. Are we being honest when we exaggerate things? What about hyperbole? How about when we choose to leave details out or even just forget to mention them? If we break it down and apply strict criteria to what's honest and what's not, you may find that actually you are far less honest than you think you are. But how do we function if so much of what we say to each other is untrue? Surely society would collapse under the weight of so much deception. It's because we've developed a complex system of sorting the truth from the deceptions we've chosen to accept. It works only because we've all agreed to it on a subliminal level. It's an ever-changing social contract that our societies buy into which dictates what dishonesty we're willing to ignore or work around. Take this old joke as an example. How do you know if a politician is lying? Their lips move! It may be said in jest, but the humour lies in its truth. We no longer expect our politicians to tell the truth, and haven't done for a long time. We expect broken promises. We're familiar with exaggeration. We even tolerate outright lies. We see corruption. We see philandering, nepotism masquerading as merit, and a multitude of other sins. Yet we still vote for them and accept their leadership, however much we may complain. Some of us even become fiercely loyal to these serial liars, to the point of families breaking apart and jobs being lost. When we hear a politician make a promise or criticise a rival, when they explain away their mistakes or trumpet failures as successes, we forgive them if they're the ones we voted for. Their lies, their deceit and double standards are understood whilst we read between the lines and decide what we choose to believe. What about advertising? In my own lifetime, I've seen significant changes to the way advertising is regulated. From products that may not be advertised at all, through others that have strict restrictions on who they can advertise to and rules about what may or may not be said to encourage us to buy. We even make jokes about the truth within the small print in adverts for financial services. In the United States, where advertising prescription drugs is not only legal but commonplace, parodies are made of the garbled, rapidly spoken disclaimers made at the end of such ads on TV and radio. Even though most advertisers are no longer allowed to lie or make outlandish claims, they still make a living from making us believe things are better, more useful, or more desirable than they actually are. We know that the product is not probably the best in the world, the best a man can get, or that buying the same computer or phone as millions of others means we think different. We have simply accepted that this form of deception is the language of advertising and absorbed it into the social contract that we choose to live under. Now, here's where we hit a problem. Nobody was consulted when all these unwritten, socially accepted rules were agreed upon, least of all autistic people. Nobody asked us if we were going to be able to cope with all this multi-layered deception. We were just lumbered with it. And the truth is, many of us just can't handle it. It's not that autistic people are incapable of lying. Some of us certainly do, and without doubt a few are very good at it. But the way our brains function is not suited to weeding out acceptable lies from unacceptable ones. Most of us are highly detail-oriented. It's why so many of us are great at spotting and making use of patterns, why so many of us work in science and technology, and why we appreciate order in our lives. Having things in their place, organised in a logical fashion, is how we function best. The messy tangle of social contracts the world has made to excuse all the various subtleties of dishonesty we encounter in daily life doesn't follow any kind of pattern we can decode. It couldn't be further from any sense of order if it had been specifically designed to confuse. Most autistic people have a preference for honesty, both in how we conduct ourselves and in how we like to be spoken to. Given the choice, we would prefer our politicians to tell the truth, and our adverts to just give us the facts, and the more detail, the better. Most of us would also prefer the hard truth over a white lie, don't like it when people exaggerate, and will regard your opinion as worthless unless you can not only explain how you came to hold that opinion, but have facts to back it up. There's no But it's just an opinion with an autist. It means nothing without facts to support it. That puts us at a huge disadvantage in a world built on a shaky foundation of half-truths. When you are a neurotypical person communicating with an autistic partner, friend, family member, or even pupil or colleague, you enjoy a privilege few benefit from. There are no gaps between the lines for you to read meaning into, no hints being made and facts being concealed. You get honesty in the dictionary sense, not the socially accepted version. It also gives you a great responsibility. When you ask a question of an autist, you'll more often than not get an honest answer. It may not be what you want to hear, and it may not be to their own advantage, but it'll be the truth, far more so than you would usually get from anyone else. They'll tell you the truth, even if it hurts them most of the time. Every conversation is conducted by the standards you expect of a sworn-in witness at a trial, but without even the protection against incriminating ourselves. Most of us who've tried to play the game, who have attempted to lie in the past, have failed miserably. So even if we've been tempted at some point, we've given it up as a bad idea. If everyone had similar standards of honesty to autistic people, imagine what the world would be like. Politicians wouldn't make such grandiose promises, but we know they break their backs trying to keep the realistic ones they've made. Lawyers would be redundant because there would be little need for juries and courts. You'd never be disappointed by anything you bought because it would be exactly as described, and you'd never go out in public wearing that ridiculous haircut. Of course, our world has gone too far down the road of deception and misdirection for that to ever work for everyone. Many science fiction stories and a few comedies have gone down that route, and the imagined consequences have always been disastrous. If you robbed politicians of all their bluster and their lies, nobody would ever vote again, and democracy would be dead overnight. Most of the brand names on the high street would disappear, and a lot of feelings would be hurt by the unfiltered truth. Autistic honesty is a godsend in personal and working relationships, though. Although living in this world with its flexible understanding of the truth is difficult for autistic people, our honesty can make life easier for the neurotypicals close to us. You don't have to second guess what we mean, because there's no hidden meaning to decode. This is where the responsibility comes in, though. If you have someone in your life who is completely honest with you, you owe them the courtesy of doing the same for them. Don't lie to an autist, even white lies. It is never in our best interest to be deceived. All lies come out in the end, and you will be seen as a betrayer of trust. Once trust is lost, it can be incredibly difficult, sometimes impossible to regain. Don't forget that leaving information out can be deceptive too. Ever wondered why the autist in your life explains everything at such length and includes details you think are irrelevant? It's because they don't want to deceive you. Don't try to change them. Cherish this quality. Respect it in kind, and when needed, be their shield from a cruel and deceptive world that will eat them up for breakfast given half a chance. There are downsides to autistic honesty, which I'll cover in the next episode, along with ways that we, as autists, can temper our honesty to better consider the feelings of the neurotypical people we care about. But for now, thanks for watching. If you click up here on the left, you can subscribe to the channel and see more videos about autistic life and issues that affect the autistic community. And over here on the right, you can watch another video in this series about autism and relationships.